I woke up from a weird nightmare I had about 5 minutes ago, and while the nightmare itself felt essentially like some third-rate creepypasta or some rejected SCP, I did notice a building during that nightmare that I actually remembered from another nightmare. The building itself was clearly based on a shop for exotic furniture close to my flat, but with somewhat inverted dimensions. While the in-real-life store is a wide, pale yellow 2-story building with huge square floor-length windows and big glass double doors. The building in the nightmares, on the other hand, was large and somewhat narrow, about 6 to 8 stories tall, windowless, pale yellow building, with one small steel door as the entrance. It appeared to have been a store called the Three Khans in the recent past, or at least that's what the dark green letters in a stereotypical Irish font on a white sign about as wide as the building itself and half as tall as the door said. And while this in itself just sounds like a subpar horror movie plot, the interesting part is that whenever I see it in my nightmares, I can feel it decaying, even though I never entered it. The only thing that changed between the first and last time I saw the building was a sign no longer saying the Three Khans, but instead just the 3KH, by which I don't mean the remaining letters falling off the sign, but instead, the sign was still completely filled by the remaining letters, as if it was always meant to read the 3KH. The building itself has never played an important role in these nightmares. One time I remember trying to hide behind the building in its parking lot from some kind of monstrosity chasing me, and the other time I passed it while being chased by the bargain basement SCP I mentioned earlier.
So a while back, I talked about my dreams taking me to, I don't know what else to call it, other than an alternate universe. I've seen little girls being hung, people watching me through windows, and my dead pets come back to life, all of which take place in the nighttime, although it only happens when I nap during the day. I am usually able to tell in them that it is a dream, but the last two felt so real. The first one happened 2 days ago. I got back from work at 6 and fell asleep. When I woke up, it was pitch black, and my clock read 12:31 a.m. All my lights in my room were on, and my phone was playing a video. When I reached for the phone, my hand just went limp, and I couldn't grab it. But I saw the text of my parents pop up saying, "It's almost 1 a.m. Turn off your lights." Mind you, I always stay up late enough to fall asleep, forgetting to turn them off, so this is something my parents just text me when they head to bed, just in case I'm already asleep. I sit up all dehydrated and grab my water and chug it. When the buy flag falls off my door, it freaks me the hell out. So as any scared-ass teenager, I decided to go to my parents' room. So I grabbed my blanket and scurried out of my room through my mom's office. I turned to the hallway, and I notice my sister isn't back from her work yet, so the lights are on for her, and they are lighting up our little hallway. I turned into the main hallway and looked down it. We have a huge mirror at the end before my parents' room, with the archway for the kitchen and the pony wall separating it from the dining room and formal living room on the left. I start speed walking. This hallway has been a part of my nightmares since I was a kid, and where I've seen most of the hanging kids in my dreams. As I reach the halfway point, I look up to see an 8-foot man following me. Then another comes out of the entryway. I sprinted for my parents' room and felt a jolt. I woke up at 6:14 a.m. to my bed, shaking, and jolted upright to see nothing in my room. The second encounter took place today. I wasn't all that energetic this morning, so I decided to let my cat into my room and watch some YouTube as he snuggled up next to me. As I mentioned before, I always exit my room through the Jack and Jill bathroom that's attached to my mom's office, despite having a door that led straight out to the hallway. The front door of my room is where my cat sits and meows to be let in every morning. Needless to say, we fell asleep, both of us. I woke up usually alone, but my cat was right next to me, eyes wide. It's pitch black, and so is my room. I look at the clock and again see that it is 12:31 a.m. I get up to close my blinds when I hear, "Please, let us out. We are scared." My cat started hissing and I woke up. My cat was freaking out. He was just asleep, but he jumped over me and full-on sprinted out of my room. He's 14 and chubby, so him running is rare. It was just then I realized I was facing my window. My cat was facing my room. What the hell did he see? Also, side note, my cat has hissed at corners, fought nothing in my closet, and sprinted in and out of my room since I was a kid. 2 weeks ago, he flinched like he was hit and didn't come into my room for at least a week. My dog did the same, also stood guard, like something was in my room before he passed, and my other cat refused to be near it. I will be posting a video of the areas in my house I go in my dreams today.
In my nightmare, I was part of an obscure Orthodox Jewish cult that was regularly performing rituals involving demonic entities and strange things of the beyond. We were outside, probably something like 16 people, and we were performing a terrifying, violent ritual that we really didn't want to do but were forced to. I think I remember a girl crying and trying to run away but getting caught. We were allowed to use the restroom before we began the other part of the ritual, but most of us didn't want to because we knew that in that particular place there was a sinister demon that snatched people's bodies and souls from the stalls. Me and a few other girls went to the restroom. They went in first and everything seemed okay. I was very hesitant, but out of fear of what would happen to me when I go back outside, I just decided to use the restroom and see what happens. After I was done and flushed the water, I went out of the stall and was suddenly caught by a thing so fast I couldn't even see it. It was like the entire world became something else, and I was suddenly carried far up to the night sky, to what seemed like a huge structure. Next thing I knew, I woke up in a train, going inside a tunnel that was well lit, but the daylight coming from holes on the top. Next to me sat all kinds of people, men, women, children, even some bizarre creatures, I think. It went on and on with no end in sight. They all seemed defeated or too terrified to even move. The train was going nowhere. Somehow I knew. It was going on to eternity, a never-ending ride. I panicked and tried to get away through an open door by the end of the train. But from the top of the train, a tall, terrifying demon with disturbingly long arms and legs jumped on me and dragged me back while I'm still struggling. It drags me all the way to the back of the train, to a dimly lit room with a computer, books, many documents, and all kinds of objects that seemed mostly office-related. The demon approached me. It was slumped, probably a 2.7 meters tall creature, with a cape covering most of its body. I couldn't even see its face. And it told me that I'm working for him now. I sat near the computers and it went through with me the basics of what I had to do. I needed to be pretty much his personal helper. Take care of paperwork, manage various things around the train, but most importantly, choose which person to take next. The software I was working with was strange and included mostly big pictures of the faces of people whose lives we're going to take. The choosing process was a tedious, apparently illogical method that included various symbols I didn't understand, which I needed to match to others in order to choose the next person. The creature went back to watch over the people in the train and left me there alone. As I went on and on in my work, I realized the scale of the horror show that I had become part of. Some people were meant to become slaves to do various jobs around the train. Some were meant to become inanimate objects like vases, umbrellas, statues. And some people were meant to simply sit there on the train, being watched over by this demon, doing so until the end of time itself. All things considered, I realized it could have been much worse for me. A short while after, I woke up.
I had an inception of 3 sleep paralysis episodes. I just woke up from the worst thing ever. Okay, context. I am a somewhat stressed student living on the 5th floor of a rather old building somewhere in Lyon, France. In my bedroom, there's only one window, on my right when on the bed. I'm used to having sleep paralysis, and I know how to make them go away pretty quickly. So, in the first dream, I was around a campfire with people, my current girlfriend included, and something woke me up. I was in the dark, but it's fine because I could hear wakes flowing on the beach. And more importantly, I could see them because there's no window, but a plain open door to said beach, which felt normal because I was still dreaming. And I remember telling myself, let's go sit in the sand and wait for the night to pass. So I grabbed this car thing, like a toy, that makes Ghibli music. Again, felt completely normal. In fact, I dreamt of that same toy already before. And I started messing with it to activate the jingle, but it didn't want to work. It's like a broken radio. And I was like, oh shit. And I woke up to the first sleep paralysis. So now I'm supposed to be in the real world, in a panic a bit, breathe, and it's gone, the paralysis. I get up, turn on the lights and the kitchen door. Yeah, I got like my bedroom and then kitchen, then it's a corridor. It's open. Odd, because I specifically close it when I'm about to go to bed. So I do it again, and it opens again. But like the lock didn't catch the thingy in the wall. So I grabbed the handle, and it came off my hand. And at that moment, I see a creature on the counter. And it runs off. And of course, because I started to panic again, it woke me up to the second sleep paralysis. I found myself in the dark again, in my bed, panicking. There's no sleep paralysis yet. So I grabbed my phone to turn on the flashlight, but it didn't want to work. And I felt my face melt, like when under anesthesia. Then my hands and fingers started to feel numb, and the paralysis began before I could light the thing up. I was screaming silently. And you know where this is going. Panicking. It woke me up to the third sleep paralysis. Now I'm in the real world. The one where I'm writing this post. I panic, breathe, the paralysis goes away. I literally ran to the light button on the other side of the room. I checked the time. 3 a.m. I will not sleep anymore this night. I'm done with this shit.
Me and my sisters were at Chuck E. Cheese because it was closing and they were selling stuff. They were selling mystery prizes in the cups, and I won an all-expenses-paid trip to the Chuck E. Cheese resort. Now I knew why they were closing. They had opened a resort. Inside was 5 plane tickets and information about it. The manager and Chucky came up to congratulate me on winning. He told me to hold up my prize for a photo with Chucky and the staff. After getting the photo, we left. On the way home, I looked at the picture and it was, well, creepy. Like something bad was about to happen. When I told my parents, they were happy about the vacation, but they couldn't take time off to go. So my sisters, my older brother and I will be going on a 2-week vacation. We get to the resort and we were given a tour of the place. We get our rooms and we make sure that we have everything. We get a call from the front desk saying we have time to go explore before dinner, so we did. We found out that there's a roller coaster to another part of the park and that we will be able to go on it next week. But one of my sisters just couldn't wait and got on it anyways, and we didn't see her for a long while once we were able to get on it. I got on to go look for her, but for most of the ride I was on my phone texting my older brother to let him know when I find her. So I get there, and they were giving out these buckets of ice cream with some strange looking pellets, like pellets you feed animals, and I get one and they tossed what I supposed to be pistachios at me, but I told them I couldn't because I had braces. I was just going to eat the ice cream on top, and as I was walking up the stairs, I passed this guy who was making an ice cream cone on the floor with sprinkles and asked me if I wanted it. I keep telling him no, hinting that I didn't want to talk to him, but he pressed on and continued anyway. So he follows me around asking questions as I look for a place to sit. This place looks a bit creepy. I'm seeing all of these shoes, bags and clothing everywhere. At this point I'm annoyed and just keep saying to every question he asked me. I finished the ice cream and placed it on a nearby table. That's when I noticed what the time was and that I didn't have any reception at the place. So I take a look around and apparently I was in the laundry room. And there are some guests who are doing their laundry, but they seemed a bit odd. After I finally lost this creepy guy, I go behind this strange door where apparently I found my sisters and my brother. Each was on a different set of stairs. They were so scared we hugged each other and cried, and we wanted to leave. So I peeked out to see if that creepy man was gone. But that's when I noticed that all of these people had sharp teeth and were hissing. So I get back behind the door. And as I'm closing the door, I saw that creepy man slowly creeping by, looking through the crack. I managed to fully close it and lock the door. He got upset and started to bang on it, calling me a bitch. Then out of nowhere, this weird cartoon character comes up from behind him and eats him. But I managed to duck down before it saw me and wandered away. That's when I thought about the missing kids and if this is what was happening to them. So we get away from the door, making sure that it's locked, and a light was glowing from around the corner of a TV screen. It started to show kids shows, but they were all an hour long and they were horrifying, like Nick Jr. shows. We didn't know what the time was. It felt like hours we'd been there, until I noticed that the room was completely empty. Nothing was in there. So we slowly opened the door and peeked out from the door, and there on the ground was a scoop of ice cream half melted. We were all just crying and scared. We didn't know what to do, but we ate the ice cream when another cartoon character came out. He seemed to be scared and not like the other creatures. He was a pink fat rabbit, you know, from The Amazing World of Gumball. He had these weird jars on his hands and ears and said, "What was wrong with you guys? You're supposed to be in costume." And that's when I woke up from this nightmare. This had to be one of the strangest and creepiest nightmares I've ever had.
Okay, so I've literally just woken up from this, and it scared me so much that I had to write it down before I forgot. It wasn't terrifying at first, but it got super creepy later. So I was at my friend's house. I can't remember why, but we were there. This computer bug fairy type of thing started chasing us, so we ran to my house. Then, when we were there, 2 more of them came out of the computer, and they were human now? I don't know, dream logic, I suppose. In my top drawer, which is basically just a bunch of cables and random stuff, we found this keychain that had loads of stuff on it. Like, it was heavy. The bug human thing started freaking out, saying I had found a sparticle chain. By the way, it burnt in my dream. Like I felt it, and it burnt. I woke up and my hand was physically hot, but none of the rest of me was. So me and my friend and these 3 computer bug people all held it and asked if there were any spirits or demons that could come and say bye to their loved ones through it, which I was dubious about in the dream because my friend wouldn't normally say anything like that, but she seemed weird. Whenever she was in my dreams before, it's very accurate to how she really is, but she seemed almost hollow at this point. So I passed out in my dream, and something happened. I can't remember exactly what, but I remember these bright red eyes, and I think maybe a Wendigo. I remember a shadow, and I woke up from passing out. Then I got into bed and sort of passed out again, but it hurt. My dreams never hurt, but this physically hurt me, which is why I didn't shake it off like I usually would. This is the really scary part of my dream. The second time I woke up in a really dark, small hole. There was this crack of light, and it was sort of lifting. So I managed to scramble my way out of it. I was in an apartment, and I had just crawled out from the floorboards. I was a middle-aged man. I'm a trans guy, and in my dreams I've never middle-aged, so I don't think I was myself. There was a window, so I smashed the bottom right pane, and then the top one, which was a lot larger. I remember I was screaming about someone called Sarah. And I don't really know anyone called Sarah in real life, so this stood out to me. The man jumped out of the window, and it was like he was escaping the apartment, especially since from what I remember from the dream, it was quite high up, and I immediately woke up. After I woke up, the dream was kind of foggy up to this part. The middle-aged man was so clear in my mind. I woke up facing the wall. I never sleep or wake up in that direction. And I could feel a presence behind me, exactly where in my dream the keychain was. I'm not sure if this is anything, but it just spooked me so badly that I thought I might have been something other than a dream. Also, this entire thing occurred in the span of about 10 to 15 minutes. When I wake up early, I fall asleep again after an hour or 2, and it usually lasts between 10 to 30 minutes, and I never dream during them this clearly. I could probably draw the window and the entire apartment. It's still so clear in my mind. Either way, I've never woken up like this before.
I was at a hotel that had a lot of extra public rooms. Small movie theatre with couches, sauna room, soaking pool, shuffleboard, jukebox bars with big fireplaces. I was in the movie theatre when the audio from the room turned into a very bassy, serious voice explaining that there were very important directions that everyone had to comply with. Basically saying you will sit and not move, Move and you are shot dead. After a few moments after those confused, scared stares at one another from the couches, shots were fired. The voice on the speakers got louder and louder, very scary. Lots of blood, screams, trampling. I crawled away and escaped to a corridor, which led me to a very private patio with 3 elderly ladies, 80 plus. They were scared but thought they were safe. Immediately after, they were gunned down. I escaped again, running into the streets. I managed to peek into the movie theater I originally ran from. There were bloodied humans everywhere, screaming from their gunshot wounds, many of them being raped by these horrific-looking military men. I lost it, terrified, and ran. Every road in front of me was more loud, bloody, and chaotic than ever. Every corner I turned, I saw familiar evil faces from the movie theater I started at, with those low voices on a PA for the city to hear. I woke up in a sweat, got my wits about me, and wrote down everything I could remember. It was horrific. I feel so bad for anyone who deals with nightmares now. I never realized how terrible and realistic they could be. I hope I never experience anything like that again.
This story is 100% legit true. I was there with my boyfriend when he woke up and explained to me the vividly terrifying nightmare he had. There was one night many months ago that my boyfriend randomly woke up and was breathing extremely hard laying next to me. I'm a very light sleeper, and him waking up like that essentially woke me up. I could tell right away something was wrong with him. I asked him if he was okay, and he didn't reply. He just got up from the bed and walked across the house into the bathroom. I got up and went to check on him. When I opened the bathroom door, I saw he was covered in sweat. He was drenched in sweat. He was still breathing pretty hard and looked pale, like he was about to be sick. He was leaning over the bathroom sink, motionless and very quiet. He then turned on the sink, splashed some water on his face, and turned to face me. He was extremely reluctant at first to tell me what happened. It was almost as if he was very scared to tell me what he experienced. After a little while, he calmed down long enough to start telling me. He had a very intense and real feeling nightmare. He said it felt so real, he literally thought this was actually happening to him. My boyfriend has always had somewhat lucid dreams. He usually can tell when he's dreaming and can easily take control of his dreams and make choices about what's going on in them. This was one of the very first that he had no control over what was happening, and he literally thought this was his actual life. The gist of the nightmare was this. In his dream, he was leaving a hospital after a checkup. Before leaving, he was stopped by the wife of a fellow soldier he worked with back in the 1950s. In his dream, it seemed like it was the 80s or so. She explained to him that her husband was slowly dying from a memory wipe procedure that was done on him when he was still in the military. My boyfriend told her that he didn't know her husband and that he was never in the military. She told him that it was extremely urgent for him to meet with her husband. She explained her husband's condition to him. They enter the hospital room where he was in, and she then hands him a tape recording. She told him that it is very important for him to hear it. He turned on the tape recording, and it is some sort of work log. And immediately after the recording started, my boyfriend started to hear his own actual voice on the tape recording. He and his fellow soldier had been stationed at an Air Force base to do radar surveillance in a tower. They are monitoring the radar when his fellow soldier suddenly saw something on it, and it is coming in the direction of their tower. The next thing they know, there's extremely loud screaming coming from the tape recorder, and then silence. The voice that was screaming was definitely my boyfriend's own voice. Afterwards, he had to talk to the fellow soldier. They talked for a while, and he even showed him a picture of them together at this military base. He then explained to him all of the horrible events. Him and his fellow soldier were taken on to a UFO and subjected to horrible experiments, and then placed back inside the tower. When they were back in the tower, they were no longer alone. There was a group of other soldiers, as well as their captain. The captain told them they must not tell absolutely anyone what they experienced, and the other soldiers quickly started taking down their equipment from the tower, but not before the fellow soldier that experienced this with my boyfriend grabbed the tape recording from its console and hid it. They then were both taken into a faraway facility and subjected to a forced surgery that they did not agree to. Their memories were completely wiped and implanted with fake new memories. Their lives were literally wiped. They were given new names, new birthplaces, new parents, new brothers, sisters, completely fake new lives, as well as wiping the minds of anyone who knew who they really were. This person explained to him that he was dying from whatever they did to him to wipe his memory. Something had gone wrong with the procedure, so he still remembered everything that happened. As he was slowly remembering those events, he got married to his wife and began to tell her what he remembered. Suddenly, soon after, people that resembled the quote-unquote men in black started showing up at his house, telling him that he cannot share this information with anyone. And they started telling his wife that he has some sort of degenerative disease and she should not listen to him. The fellow soldier's last wishes was for him to know the truth about what happened, and so gave my boyfriend the tape recording and the research he had found throughout the years about the others that could confirm the events that took place. In the research, there was even a contact of a government official who was actually involved with the forced surgeries that were being done to soldiers back then. My boyfriend had managed to find and contact this official, and the official was very paranoid and scared, explaining to him that they already knew that he knew the truth, that his life was in danger, and they were coming for him. Suddenly, what he thought to be the men in black, as well as military soldiers, broke into his home and started chasing after him. They were shooting at him with these very strange looking guns that shot a strange colored laser. That was the point when he started to wake up from his nightmare. As he was running away and they were shooting, he felt something burn him, and that's when he woke up again in our bed, completely terrified and covered in sweat. The thing with this specific nightmare that creeped the hell out of me was how extremely detailed this dream was. He remembered his name, the name of his fellow soldier, what year it was. It was just so detailed, and his reaction after having this dream at witnessing how scared he was just freaked me out. He kept looking around the house, looking out of the windows and checking all the doors. What freaked my boyfriend out was someone in his dream telling him about the events that he did not remember until someone showed him physical proof. Then he remembered what happened to him. We didn't even go back to sleep the rest of that night. We both believed that it could be possible that he had a strange dream of a past life experience. But holy crap, if it is a past life, did any of that really happen to him back in the 50s and 80s? Thank you all for stopping by to check out my new series of strange and unusual stories. Tune in next time as we continue part 2 of Dreams and Nightmares. Special thanks to Papa Scares Horror Stories for collaborating with me on this first episode. Check out the video I did with him on his channel. Link will be down in the description below. If you got something strange and unusual that you would like to share, send me a quick email. If you would like to keep up with future content, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. See you all next time. And as always, I am your host, Marie Lives the Horror.